The polished oak doors of Liberty Trust Bank's flagship branch in Manhattan swung open as Dr. Evelyn Carter stepped inside her Louboutin heels clicking against the marble floor. The air smelled of money and privilege, the kind of place where people like her, black, female, and impeccably dressed, were often met with sideways glances. Today was no exception. The security guard near the entrance stiffened his hand, drifting toward his radio before she'd even reached the premium services counter. "Oh, ma'am, standard banking is over there," said the teller, a blonde woman named Ashley barely looking up from her screen. Her tone dripped with the kind of condescension reserved for those she assumed didn't belong. "I'm here for private wealth services," Evelyn replied, her voice calm but firm. Ashley's smirk was almost imperceptible. "Do you have an appointment?" Evelyn's grip tightened on her crocodile skin briefcase. "I don't need one." Enter Kyle Richardson, the assistant manager, with the swagger of a man who'd never been told no. His eyes swept over her, lingering just a second too long on her designer suit, as if calculating how she could afford it. "This area is for high-net-worth clients," he said loud enough for nearby customers to hear. "Our minimum balance is $500,000. Are you familiar with that requirement?" A few heads turned. At a nearby table, a college student named Jake was live-streaming his day in the city to his modest following. His viewer count spiked as the tension thickened. Evelyn set her briefcase on the counter with a deliberate thud. "Why don't you explain those requirements to me, Kyle?" The monogram on her case, LTB Board of Directors, glinted under the chandelier light, but Kyle was too busy playing to his audience to notice. "We also require verified income sources," he added, emphasizing the word like it was a punchline. "You know, legitimate ones." Jake's live stream exploded. Comments flooded in. Did he really just say that this is 2024, not 1964? Evelyn's phone buzzed. Missed calls from the bank's general counsel, the CFO. The board meeting started in 20 minutes. Kyle crossed his arms. "If you can't provide documentation, we'll have to ask you to leave." Then came the twist. An older gentleman in a tailored suit, Mr. Delaney, a longtime client, cleared his throat. "Kyle, maybe check your system before embarrassing yourself further." Kyle ignored him, but the room's energy shifted. The district manager's face appeared on the teller's monitor, his frown deepening as he took in the scene. "What's the issue here?" Before Kyle could spin his version, Evelyn reached into her wallet. Her Centurion card flashed, but what made the room go silent was the VIP parking pass slipping from her briefcase, level P1 executive access only. Jake's live stream hit 2,000 viewers. Evelyn typed a quick text, code 7, "Initiate now." Then she smiled, slow and deliberate. "You were saying about documentation, Kyle." The doors burst open. Two men in suits, bank executives, rushed in out of breath. "Dr. Carter." One gasped, "The board is waiting." Kyle's face drained of color. Evelyn didn't gloat. She simply picked up her briefcase and turned to leave, pausing only to say, "Oh, and Kyle, clean out your desk by noon." The live stream ended with Jake's whispered, "Holy shit." And just like that, the story of Liberty Trust Bank's newest board member went viral. The marble lobby buzzed with an electric energy as Evelyn stood before a sea of cameras, holding up a single sheet of paper that would send shockwaves through Wall Street. "As of 8:07 this morning," she announced, "Heritage Bank has officially become the first financial institution in U.S. history to tie executive bonuses directly to diversity metrics." The crowd erupted as she revealed the groundbreaking policy. Every manager's compensation would now depend on equitable service delivery verified by AI-powered audits. Then came the mic drop moment. A delivery man wheeled in a massive, flat-screen TV which flickered to life, showing a live satellite feed from Washington. The comptroller of the currency stood at a podium flanked by senators. In light of Heritage Bank's unprecedented reforms, he declared, we're adopting their model as the new national standard for fair banking practices. Evelyn didn't smile. She turned to the cameras and issued a challenge that would redefine an industry. Every bank CEO watching this, you have 30 days to implement these changes, or we'll release an open-source algorithm that lets customers compare your discrimination statistics in real time. The room went silent until, ding, every phone in the lobby chimed simultaneously with a Bloomberg alert. Heritage stock soars 18% in pre-market trading. Mrs. Roosevelt burst into applause, her pearls clacking together. "Child," she whispered to Evelyn, "you didn't just change a bank, you changed America." And as the cameras panned to show every Heritage employee, from janitors to executives, wearing Equity First pins on their lapels, the world witnessed something rare in corporate history, not just damage control, but redemption. Somewhere in Chicago, 3 fired bankers watched the broadcast from an unemployment office, while federal investigators circled their names on a much longer list. The ballroom screen suddenly cut to black as Evelyn finished her ABA speech, then flickered to life with a live satellite feed from the White House Rose Garden. The president stood at the podium, flanked by banking regulators and civil rights leaders. "Today," she announced, "we're adopting the Washington Protocols, making Heritage Bank's equity standards federal law for all financial institutions with over $50 billion in assets." The crowd erupted as the chyron scrolled Carter Act passes House 435-0, largest banking reform since Glass-Steagall. Then came the twist no one anticipated. A teenage girl, Tiana, the protester whose mother had been denied a loan, walked on stage holding a giant novelty check. From the Heritage Community Fund, she announced, her voice steady despite the tears, $250,000 to rebuild my mom's salon and start a financial literacy program for Black teens. The check's memo line read, "Paid in full, justice delivered." Evelyn knelt to hug her as cameras flashed. "This isn't charity," she whispered loud enough for the mics to catch. "This is what happens when we listen." Backstage, Bradley Mitchell, now a diversity trainer, watched with his newest client, a red-faced Wall Street CEO, holding a termination notice. "See that?" Bradley pointed to Evelyn on the monitors. "That's what real leadership looks like." The broadcast cut to a montage. Heritage Bank's marble lobby now featured a wall of accountability, displaying every discrimination complaint from the past decade, their resolutions, and the employees who'd grown from them. Mrs. Roosevelt, age 79, stood proudly beside her own plaque. First to speak up, November 16th, 58 p.m. As the credits rolled, Sarah's viral Instagram post appeared one last time. 12.7 million views with a new caption. Turns out the best business case for diversity is basic human decency. And somewhere in Chicago, a young Black woman walked into Heritage Bank for the first time and was greeted not with suspicion, but with Jessica's warm smile and the words, "How can we help you build your dreams today?" The revolution wouldn't be televised. It would be banked. The air in Liberty Trust lobby crackled with tension as Jake's live stream viewer count surged past 3,000. Someone had tagged local news outlets, and the hashtag Liberty Trust shame was now trending citywide. Evelyn Carter hadn't moved an inch, her briefcase still planted on the counter like a flag claiming territory. The murmurs of other customers grew louder, some whispering in disbelief, others pulling out their phones to record. Kyle's smirk had vanished. He snatched the employee handbook from under the counter, flipping to page 47 with trembling fingers. His eyes darted across the text, then widened. The section on customer service violations was underlined in bold, Discriminatory conduct toward any client, regardless of perceived status, will result in immediate termination. Evelyn's phone buzzed. A new text flashed, board vote unanimous. Proceed. That's when the second twist hit. The bank's head of security, a grizzled veteran named Frank Russo, stepped forward, but instead of escorting Evelyn out, he turned to Kyle. "You're done here, Richardson. HR's waiting upstairs." Kyle spluttered. "You can't." "Oh, he can," interrupted a sharp voice. A woman in a sleek pantsuit strode through the crowd, CEO Naomi Pierce, her heels echoing like a judge's gavel. The room fell silent. "In fact," she continued, "let's make this a teaching moment." She gestured to the live stream. "Jake, mind if we borrow your platform?" Jake, starstruck, nodded. Naomi faced the camera. "Liberty Trust has zero tolerance for bias. Effective immediately, Mr. Richardson is terminated. Dr. Carter." She extended a hand. "Your board seat is ready. And to every client who witnessed this, your next round of fees are waived." The lobby erupted, not in chaos, but in applause. Mrs. Delaney, the elderly client who'd spoken up earlier, pressed a hand to her chest. "About damn time," she muttered. Evelyn finally moved, but not toward the boardroom. She walked straight to Jake's table, leaned into the camera, and said softly, "This isn't just about me. It's about every person who's ever been made to feel less than in a place they own." Then she unclipped her briefcase, revealing a stack of folders. "And for the record, these aren't documents. They're lawsuits from clients you all turned away. Today, we settle them." The live stream froze at 10,000 viewers. Somewhere in the back, Kyle Richardson dropped his security badge into a trash can. It landed with a clink, the sound of a system breaking. The silence in the lobby was so thick you could hear the rustle of Patricia's blouse as she recoiled from the business card. Bradley's laugh came out strangled, half scoff, half panic. "CEO, nice try. The CEO is James Wellington. Everyone knows that." Evelyn didn't blink. She tapped her tablet, and the bank's digital signage screens, usually flashing interest rates, flickered to life. A live press conference appeared where James Wellington himself stood at a podium, clearing his throat. "Effective immediately," he announced, "I'm stepping down as CEO of Liberty Trust. Dr. Evelyn Carter will assume leadership not just as my successor, but as the majority shareholder." Bradley's mouth hung open. Patricia's manicured nails dug into the counter. Then came the gut punch. From the elevator bank, a man in a janitor's uniform pushed a cart forward, except it wasn't filled with cleaning supplies. He lifted the lid to reveal a towering cake iced with "Welcome, Dr. Carter" in gold script. "Compliments of the board, ma'am," he said, peeling off his cap to reveal a security earpiece. "Undercover corporate audit." The crowd gasped. Jake's live stream crashed from the flood of new viewers. Evelyn finally moved, plucking a pen from her briefcase. "Let's clarify a few things," she said, signing the cake knife with a flourish before handing it to Patricia. "1, HR will meet you both in 10 minutes. 2, she nodded to the undercover auditor who produced 2 boxes from the cart. "Clean out your desks. And 3, she turned to the stunned customers, her voice softening, "every person in this lobby gets a 0.5% rate reduction on their mortgages. Consider it an apology for the show." Mrs. Delaney whooped, clapping like she was at a revival. The security guards, now firmly Team Evelyn, stepped forward to escort Bradley and Patricia toward the elevators. As the doors closed on their careers, Evelyn glanced at the cake, then at Jake's camera. "Oh, and Bradley," she called. "The 10-count thing, cute. But in this bank, I set the timer." The knife plunged into the cake. The lobby erupted, and somewhere in the chaos, a single notification buzzed on every employee phone, all staff meeting. 4 p.m. Dress code, humility. The air in the lobby turned electric as Ellen Rodriguez stepped aside, revealing a fourth figure. No one had noticed a young intern clutching a silver tablet. With a swipe, the bank's entire digital display system switched to a live CNN broadcast, where the ticker at the bottom screamed, "Break-in Heritage Bank CEO Amara Washington leads four-bowling merger with First National." Bradley's tie suddenly felt like a noose. "Oh, that merger you've all been gossiping about in the break room," Evelyn said, plucking the tablet from the intern's hands. "It closed this morning, which means—" She tapped the screen, and every employee phone in the building buzzed simultaneously with a memo titled "Structural Changes Effective Immediately." Patricia's phone clattered to the marble floor. The first bullet point glared up at her all Midwest regional management positions under review. Then came the masterstroke. From the elevator bank, a chorus of dings sounded as every car arrived at once. Out poured a flood of employees, janitors, tellers, loan officers, all holding handwritten signs as "Stand with Dr. Washington." The head of IT, a quiet man named Raj, stepped forward. "We've been watching the live stream in the break room, ma'am. HR has already received 87 internal complaints about Bradley's department." Mrs. Roosevelt let out a cackle that echoed through the vaulted ceilings. "Looks like your audience picked a side, Bradley." Robert Hayes's pixelated face on the monitor went slack. "Dr. Washington, perhaps we could— resign." Evelyn finished for him, pulling a single sheet of paper from her briefcase. "How prescient. That's exactly what this is." She handed it to Ellen. "Mr. Hayes's severance agreement. He can sign it now, or the SEC can review his expense reports from last quarter's client retreat in the Bahamas." Jake's live stream hit 100K views as a notification popped up. POTUS liked this stream. Evelyn checked her watch, 3:27 p.m., then turned to the crowd. "Board meetings in 3 minutes. But first," she snapped her fingers. The undercover auditor reappeared, this time wheeling in a champagne tower. "To new beginnings. And to every employee here, your bonuses just doubled." As the cork popped, Bradley's phone rang. The caller ID read Mom. He didn't answer. Somewhere in the chaos, Sarah's phone buzzed with a DM from the Ellen Show. Evelyn Washington wasn't just winning. She was rewriting the rules mid-game. The tension in the lobby reached its breaking point as a sudden commotion erupted near the entrance. A group of protesters, organized in minutes through viral social media posts, had gathered outside their chants of "Banking while black is not a crime," audible through the glass doors. Someone held a blown-up screenshot of Bradley mid-countdown, his finger pointed aggressively at Evelyn, now circulating as a meme with the caption, "When the racism hits before the HR training does." Evelyn didn't flinch. Instead, she strode to the bank's entrance and unlocked the doors herself, inviting the protesters inside. "You're all welcome here," she announced, her voice carrying. "In fact, let's make this a teachable moment for the entire industry." Then came the twist no one expected. A teenage girl from the crowd, no older than 16, stepped forward, holding a sign that read, "My mom was denied a loan here last week." Evelyn knelt to meet her at eye level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Tiana," the girl whispered. Evelyn took the sign and held it up for the room and the live stream to see. This is why we're here today." She turned to James Wright. "Pull Tiana's mother's loan application. I want it on my desk in 10 minutes. Bradley, now visibly shaking, tried to slink toward the elevators, only to find his path blocked by Marcus and 2 uniformed police officers. "Leaving so soon, Mr. Mitchell?" Marcus asked. "The FBI's Civil Rights Division just called. They'd like a word about those protocols you mentioned." The room erupted. Patricia collapsed into a chair, her career flashing before her eyes as Maria Santos slid a severance agreement across the table. "Sign this and you might avoid criminal charges," Maria murmured. Evelyn, now surrounded by reporters, raised a hand for silence. "Effective immediately, Heritage Bank will implement mandatory anti-bias training starting with me leading the first session. We're also establishing a $5 million fund to reinvest in communities historically denied fair access to banking." She paused, locking eyes with Bradley. "Oh, and Mr. Mitchell, clean out your desk. The only protocol you'll need now is how to apply for unemployment." As the crowd cheered, the bank's digital displays flickered again, this time showing real-time stock prices. Heritage Bank's shares had plummeted 12% in 15 minutes. Evelyn allowed herself a small smile. Looks like the market agrees racism is bad for business. And with that, the most explosive corporate reckoning in banking history went global. The elevator doors slid open to reveal a scene of pure corporate pandemonium. The 47th floor looked like a war room, lawyers huddled over laptops, PR teams drafting statements, and board members pacing with phones pressed to their ears. But what made everyone freeze was the sight of Bradley and Patricia being escorted through the glass-walled conference room like white-collar perp walks. Then came the mic drop moment no one saw coming. A janitor, the same one who'd brought the cake earlier, wheeled in a flat-screen TV. With a dramatic flourish, he pressed play. The screen lit up with security footage from the lobby. But not today's footage. Clip after clip showed Bradley and Patricia over the past year turning away black entrepreneurs, losing loan applications from minority clients, rolling their eyes at hijab-wearing customers. The timestamp in the corner read, "Archived Evidence, Compliance Case 2271. Maria Santos's jaw dropped. "We've had this the whole time." The janitor, now revealed as an undercover federal investigator, shrugged. "Whistleblower reports triggered an FDIC probe 6 months ago. Dr. Washington just gave us the smoking gun." Bradley lunged for the door, but 2 FBI agents materialized from the crowd. "Bradley Mitchell," one said, "you're under arrest for violating 42 U.S. Code Parf 1981 interference with contractual rights." The handcuffs clicked like a judge's gavel. Chaos erupted. Reporters shoved cameras against the glass walls. Patricia sobbed into her hands. And then, ding. Every phone in the room buzzed with a Bloomberg alert. Heritage Bank tanking in pre-market trading, down 22%. Evelyn didn't even glance at her phone. She walked to the window where the protesters below looked like a sea of justice. "Cancel the press statement," she said quietly. Then louder, "We're doing this live." She threw open the floor-to-ceiling windows literally and figuratively and stepped onto the balcony. A roar rose from the crowd as news helicopters circled overhead. "No more spin." Evelyn declared, her voice echoing across the financial district. "Heritage Bank will be held accountable. Starting now, we're launching the industry's first public accountability dashboard, real-time data on every loan application, every denial, every complaint broken down by race, gender, and zip code." The crowd erupted. Someone started chanting, "CEO, CEO." Back inside, the board chairman whispered to Ellen, "She can't just—" "Oh, she can," Ellen snapped. "She owns 51% of the voting shares now, thanks to your incompetence." As Evelyn stepped back inside, she found Jessica, the young teller, waiting with a box of donuts. "For the all-nighter, ma'am," Jessica said shyly. Evelyn took a donut, then handed Jessica a business card. "My direct line. You got a promotion waiting after we burn this place down and rebuild it right." Somewhere in the chaos, a single tweet went viral. "Most CEOs clean house. Dr. Washington just set the house on fire and rebuilt it in broad daylight." And as the clock struck 4:00 p.m., the real board meeting began with federal investigators taking notes in the front row. The mahogany doors burst open with a force that made every board member jump. Dr. Evelyn Washington didn't walk in. She stormed in flanked by 2 federal marshals and trailed by a CNN camera crew she'd personally authorized. The air crackled with tension as she slammed a leather-bound folder onto the table, sending coffee cups rattling. "Before we begin," she said, tapping the conference room's touchscreen, "let's review exactly what $2.3 billion in market capitalization just evaporated." The screen lit up with real-time analytics, a nosedive stock chart trending hashtags boycott Heritage Bank and damning side-by-side footage. Bradley's discrimination today juxtaposed with clips of 3 other identical incidents from branch cameras. Then came the twist that turned stomachs. The door creaked open again. In walked a frail black woman in a faded church dress, Miss Lena Pierce, the 72-year-old grandmother, whose small business loan Bradley had denied last month. Evelyn helped her to the head of the table. "Meet our newest board member," Evelyn announced. "Miss Pierce owns the building this bank headquarters leases space in. Her late husband built it when your fathers wouldn't lend to black architects." Gasps echoed as Miss Pierce produced a yellowed 1968 contract from her purse, the original lease, with a revocation clause for unethical conduct. "Y'all just activated paragraph 14B," she said sweetly, sliding it toward the chairman. "Pack up by Friday." Chaos erupted. The CFO vomited into a $300 trash can. The lead director started hyperventilating into his Hermes tie. But Evelyn wasn't done. She nodded to the marshals who proceeded to serve subpoenas to 6 board members for knowingly permitting a culture of discrimination. As cameras rolled, Evelyn dropped her final bomb. "Effective immediately, Heritage Bank is donating its entire fourth quarter profits, $87 million, to fund minority-owned banks. And if any of you try to fight this," she smiled icily, "I've already briefed the DOJ on your unapproved Caribbean conferences." The livestream view count hit 2.1 million as Evelyn helped Miss Pierce into the chairman's leather seat. Somewhere in Chicago, Bradley Mitchell watched his life implode on Jailhouse TV, while the protesters outside started dancing to "Another One Bites the Dust." The tension in the boardroom reached a fever pitch as Evelyn tapped her tablet, activating hidden speakers that began playing audio recordings, Bradley and Patricia's private conversations from earlier that week. "Another one of those people asking for premium services today." Patricia's voice sneered through the speakers. "I swear, they think wearing a suit makes them important." Bradley's recorded chuckle made several board members physically recoil. "Just hit them with the documentation demands. They never come back after that." The color drained from Patricia's face. That's illegal wiretapping." Evelyn didn't blink. "Actually, it's your own security system. You forgot bank policy requires all management offices to record for compliance purposes." She turned to the horrified board. "These aren't rogue employees. This is a cultural cancer." Then came the knockout punch. The doors flew open as a team of federal regulators marched in, led by none other than FDIC Chairwoman Deborah Reynolds. "We've been monitoring this situation," Reynolds announced, dropping a thick subpoena on the table. "Heritage Bank is hereby placed under immediate federal supervision, pending a full civil rights audit." Board Chairman Sterling's hands trembled as he reached for the document. "This will destroy us." "Nah, not necessarily." Evelyn interrupted, swiping to a new slide titled Project Phoenix. "If the board votes right now to implement my full reform package, including resignations from everyone who ignored these complaints, the FDIC has agreed to fast-track our merger with First National under my leadership." The room erupted. Jennifer Walsh was the first to crack. "What exactly does this package include?" Evelyn smiled. "Glad you asked." She gestured to the windows where workers were already removing the Heritage Bank sign from the building. New name, new leadership, and... She tapped her phone, triggering a mass email that buzzed every device in the room simultaneously. The subject line, mandatory anti-racism training, starts tonight at midnight. Bradley finally broke down sobbing. "You can't do this to me." "Oh, Bradley," Evelyn said softly, adjusting her CEO badge. "I just did." Outside, the protesters' cheers shook the windows as CNN's Kyron updated Heritage Bank CEO resigns, stock halted. And in that moment, every banker in America felt the ground shift beneath their feet. The boardroom's tension shattered as Evelyn slammed her palm on the table, a gunshot crack that made even the federal regulators jump. "Before we vote," she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous calm, "there's a fourth option no one's mentioned." She tapped her tablet and the screens displayed a live feed from the New York Stock Exchange. Heritage Bank's ticker symbol flashed red with a single devastating word: halted. Option 4. Evelyn continued, "is watching this company burn to the ground while I take our ethical clients to a new black-owned bank I'm launching next month." She slid glossy brochures across the table, Unity Trust coming soon with her face prominently featured as CEO. "Your choice." The room erupted into chaos. Board members scrambled for the brochures, their faces draining of color, as they saw the list of major investors, including 3 Fortune 500 companies that had just pulled their business from Heritage. Then came the twist that rewrote banking history. A junior analyst burst in gasping. The OCC just approved Dr. Washington's charter application. The White House tweeted about it. He turned his laptop to show the official POTUS post. When leaders like Dr. Carter turn injustice into opportunity, that's the American dream in action. Banking while black shouldn't be an obstacle course. Chairman Sterling's hand shook as he reached for his water glass, only for Evelyn to stop him with a raised finger. That's my water now." She produced a stack of resignation letters pre-signed by every board member who'd ignored discrimination complaints. "Sign these or I walk out that door and take 60% of your commercial clients with me." The vote wasn't just unanimous, it was desperate. 12-0 in under 10 seconds, the fastest decision in Heritage Bank's history. As Evelyn stood to leave, she paused at the door. "One more thing." She nodded to the janitor, who removed his cap to reveal an FDIC badge. "Meet your new Chief Compliance Officer. His team starts auditing every transaction from the past decade tomorrow." The protesters' cheers from the street below shook the windows as news helicopters broadcast the scene live. And in that moment, every banker in America learned a brutal lesson. You can mess with margins, you can mess with metrics, but when you mess with Evelyn Carter, you're playing chess against a grandmaster, and she brought the whole damn board.